I was just talking to him about my nephew who is in the wild and doing a lot of ranger.
Yeah,
right?
if he's in the professional wildlife conservation ranger space, I should know him. I'm one of the global trainers for Africa and Asia, primarily Africa. So I know the who's who of like the continent.
That's amazing.
It's like SF the old days, like you know who's who, and each park has their main ranger. Like my job is to know who's the job.
Yeah. So I'm gonna end up, I'm off of Facebook, so now I have to get back onto Facebook to go get onto his page so I can
make an introduction.
Yeah,
cool.
That's awesome. That's amazing. Anyway,
small world.
Yeah. Welcome to the jungle.
Welcome to the podcast.
Yeah. Welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. And so let's talk about, first off, where did you come from? Because I know you were in Savannah, but prior to that.
Yeah, it's a whole thing. When anyone
let's go.
asks where am I from, I'm like, damn it, do I tell them the whole thing and then they'll ask questions? Or just say something weird like, oh, I'm from New Zealand. They're like, oh, that makes sense. I'm not from New Zealand. I'm not a Kiwi or like Aboriginal. I'm actually British born and raised. So born and raised in London, England, rural Hertfordshire. So like the countryside. So I grew up hunting and fishing, which is kind of weird for England. It's like guns when no one else had guns. And then I moved to America 2001. September 11 happened the day after. And then I turned 18 a month later, joined the army. And the rest is history from there.
So did you come in then pre 9/11?
Yeah, by about 1 day.
Wow.
Yeah, so my family just moved here on green cards. Towers came down. I became a young man a month later. I was like, I should probably
talk about that.
I should probably go fight for my country. So definitely we'll get into that later with the whole PTSD veteran thing. I feel for me, my entire 20s, like that development phase of being a young man was taken up by the GWAT. Like I'm a GWAT baby through and through. So, yeah.
That's incredible.
Cool shit.
26 years in, I've never heard a story like that.
Yeah, so now, and after that, I left, retired from the military, moved straight to South Africa, became a wildlife ranger, got involved with like the whole rhino wars, which was going on, which was insane, like bush warfare kind of stuff. Then became a professional conservationist, bounced around Asia, lived in Thailand, and now I'm back in South Africa.
All right, now that you did the whole summary, now we got to go back and do it piece by piece.
Yeah, so I've had quite the adventure from England to the US, lived all over the US in the army, and then moved to South Africa, Thailand, and now back to South Africa.
Well, is your mother, I thought when we talked, your mother is American.
No,
right?
All British. My mum's a nurse.
Okay.
So she was a high-ranking or high-qualified nurse in the UK, and she gets paid better here in the US. She's actually in Savannah, Georgia. My mum, my dad, my two brothers and sister.
Okay.
So I'm back to see the family. Yeah, Savannah's actually my home of record in the military. I actually got really lucky. I was stationed at Fort Stewart.
Nice.
For almost 8 years. And then I was stationed in Germany with 110 SF as a British guy going back to England. And then I was the SF recruiter for the whole Southeast. Savannah, Georgia. That was my
with a British accent.
Savannah, Georgia, Fort Bragg, Germany, then back to Savannah, Georgia. The best duty station posts.
Yeah.
I did it right. Yeah.
You went from Stewart to Hunter Army Airfield then. So So you got the worst of Savannah, then the best of Savannah.
Yeah.
Fort Stewart's something else, man. That's swamp living.
That is the closest to the outback as you can get.
I'm redneck as hell anyway, so I fish, hunt, I was chasing hogs, putting snapping tails in people's rooms, wrestling rattlesnakes. Like, I even tracked bears one day. There's bears on Fort Stewart. I found a bear. Before it was a hog, it's a massive bear. There's a black bear down there.
Oh my.
I've done all the crazy stuff you can do in the woods down in Georgia.
I saw your picture when, he was like, yeah, this is who we're talking to, this is Kevin. I was like, all right, I've seen him before. I was like, man, he is a little redneck. I had to get a little backwoods with the hairdo and everything. And then I walk in, I hear him talk. I'm like, what just happened? Yeah. My brain broke. I'm like, okay.
Now I'm in the rednecks in South Africa. I'm in the blacks and whites as well, but I'm in predominantly white area, but it's the African, like they're basically they're rednecks of Georgia, same. Now they're hunting and fishing and guns. It's like same culture for me. I'm like, guns and fishing. I love you guys.
Isn't that weird? It doesn't matter where you go. It seems like the south of anywhere is always the country. Yeah. Like southern, I was in Germany for 9 years. So we lived in Bavaria.
Oh, yeah. That's just lovely. Yeah. I Stuttgart, I love it.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So I lived in Nuremberg, Vilsack, Frankfurt. But you go down south and they speak Irish and it's all country, right?
Yeah.
United States country.
It's all farmland. It's all.
I don't know about Korea though. I was born in South Korea. I don't know if that's country.
I think people revert to that because that's what we're meant to doing, like country style living, fishing, being in the woods. That's like,
that makes sense.
It's a country versus like being in the city. That's what we're meant to be doing.
So is England like that too? I thought
further
north.
Yes, I think it's the opposite. Is it the further north you go towards Scotland that it becomes more country?
The British are backwards. They're talking the wrong
It gets really, so England was an industrialized country. So the more further north you go, you get into the old industrial belt. So when you in England, you got to go really south towards like Devon. What's left of our old forests. England's interesting because it looks like lots of moors and we call it moorland. big marshlands, cut down all the trees to build a navy. Like, it used to be a wooded island. They basically cut down everything to build the greatest navy the world had ever seen at one point. But there's not much wildlife left. But it's all in the south. And it's crazy, because you asked about why England at one point, think about how crazy it is. I came from an island nation. It's quite literally an island nation, like the Maoris. They're crazy. They're on an island. They cut down all the trees, built one of the greatest navies the world has ever seen, and conquered the world. That is not the same England anymore. Ask him. So I don't really feel British anymore. I'm definitely American. I left that part behind, and it's definitely gone downhill over the few years. What I'm seeing right now is like the whole globalization and immigration as a whole. People are moving around the world freely now, and that's changing dynamics. It used to be like you conquered and you knew you were conquered, and like you bosses in charge. Like, that makes sense. Now
killed off the man.
Now there's no conquering. It's just this massive change of people's culture, and people are like, what is happening? Like, I haven't been conquered. Like, there's no been takeover, but
it's conquering through migration, not conquering through aggression.
It's not even really conquering. It's just a massive the modernization of the human world. Planes, trains, you can go from there to there. I just came from Thailand.
Made everything.
I was into Thailand. I was in the
where Atlanta was born.
30 hours later. Used to be a 2-week boat ride. Now it's like, I can go tomorrow. So I feel like humanity as a whole is going through this massive merging. It's like paint. We're taking all these paints and mixed it together, and it hasn't really made its color yet. It's just a
lot of cross-pollination.
Yeah, it's just a mess right now. We haven't figured out how to really deal with that part, I feel, as humans. We used to be very cultural and tribal, and now suddenly it's like, that's all out the window.
For
a lot of our struggles.
Very good point. I think we're trying to, you bring up a good point. It's like we're trying to slam a triangle into a square, right? Because that's the way it's always been. Hey, it's cultural. We should be doing this.
That's that tribalism thing, right? Even those subsets of those cultures, you still have even different subsets in there. Like you say, British. I'm not thinking of somebody that looks like Pip here. I'm thinking of
Pip. This guy's got all kinds of old names. No one's going Pip in years.
No one's going Pip in years.
Can't wait till he has now.
That's right.
Off camera.
All right, so we got here. You're here. You joined. 9/11 happened, and then you went to Fort Stewart, and that's where.
Well, first you had to go to. You went to OSIT and Benning. Where'd you go to?
No, I was in the regular line first. I actually went to became a combat engineer. So I wanted to go and fight war. My recruiter at the time was a sapper that had just come from a rotation. He's like, listen, you want to fight war? Be a 12 Bravo, which back in the day was combat engineers. And that's back in the old days when we were blowing caves. And back when it was good to be a demo dude. So I'm one of them guys. So I joined up, wanted to go to 82nd, and they sent me to 3rd ID. I was being like, why would you do that? I wanted to be fighting up caves. And then literally 6 months later, we're in California preparing for what was about to be a massive mechanized invasion. I'm watching that as an 18-year-old, like, this is stuff moving around. And then we went and invaded Iraq and took on a country, and that was crazy. Fever dreams.
What was your vehicle when you invaded? Because I know the common friend we have, his claim to fame was he invaded Iraq on a sea truck with an M16 and ASIP radio.
Oh man, I saw him in some banger 5, like stupid little sea truck. Like, what are we doing here?
Okay, the audience, you gotta let them know what a sea truck.
A sea truck. So in the engineer world, we do demo on the line units. You're a regular line guy. You're blowing stuff up. Very infantry-like. If you're not one of them, unfortunately, you drive a big armored bridge with no guns. It's just a big bridge you launch, or you're driving what we call the sea truck. It's basically an armored excavator. Actually, back in the day, they weren't even armored. You were just driving the excavator.
The big backhoe.
It's a rubber tire backhoe. That's what we'd call it in the industry I'm in right now.
So when we invaded Iraq, everyone got to Iraq with all our stuff from 3rd ID, which wasn't armored, and then we traded out for a few armored things. Bradleys and Abrams got a slight upgrade. I invaded in a Humvee with no doors, no roof, and no armor, which actually saved my life a few times because things don't explode when there's nothing to explode on. They go through the doors. So I actually had an RPG go under the truck one day, skip under, gouge up the truck, and not explode. I had another one go between me and the first son in the cab. If we had doors, we would have killed us. Went through the vehicle.
Yeah, all that shrapnel would have got.
I ran an Iraqi checkpoint twice. First time going the wrong direction, and second time coming back, they were ready for us. Like, if it wasn't for the fact we had no armor, no doors, the round would have blown up, went straight through the truck.
So what year was this?
This was the invasion, 2003.
Yeah.
This was fighting to Baghdad. So as the engineer unit, we had like the armored spear, and then you're right there. Like the engineer packets right behind that to blow up all the mines.
I remember 3rd ID. So Rock Marcone. Trying to figure out who your commander was at the time. 3rd ID.
I can't remember. I'm terrible for that stuff. I've got a friend that can remember everyone's name.
Was.
And still like, oh, so-and-so. Like, how do you remember all this, man? I just like vague recollections of things.
I mean, he was 18 years old at the time, Fred.
Well, so we took over. When I say we, I was in 1-7 Cav. So we had the 1 Bravo rotation that went in, because you guys went in with 4th ID, right?
No, we were the main push. We were third ID.
Well, I mean, third ID when
Y'all breached the
fourth
berm.
ID was sitting behind you.
Yeah, we
guys.
breached the book. That's actually why I went special ops. I wanted to be SAS prior my whole career, and I actually got to breach the berm for the war. And after we breached it, I watched all the soft elements flow through. So CAD going through, SEALs with their buggies, the Brits going through the landies. I remember being like, "Who are these guys?" And then explaining the whole soft thing. I was like, "I'm going to be that. I'm in the wrong damn job right now. Standing around like a clown. I should be with these guys." So that started my like focus for the career. Yeah.
I need you to open that berm up.
Yeah.
Thanks. Yeah. All right. So fourth ID kicked it in the back. You guys pushed up. That's when Geraldo was there drawing the maps in the sand.
Yeah.
Like,
So when that was going on, when Geraldo was going on, that was like Objective Curly, the big fight for I was in all out. I took the airport, the Medal of Honor winner Smith with our platoon.
Yeah.
I fought to save Smith. It was crazy, man. Looking back, yeah.
Wow. They named a gym after him.
Yeah, they did. Smith Gym.
It's a big one.
It's the biggest one I've been in.
It was a cray firefight, and one was insane.
Yeah.
For sure, I was going to die in that one. It's one of the few times I had everything blown up around me like popcorn. It's just like in there, and it's like, oh, like there's nowhere to go. There's no color. Everything's exploding. It's like, fuck, man. Everyone's left me. At first, I was run off, probably to die. Like Smith's dead on my own. As a first class driver, you run around between units. Like some 18-year-old, usually with a platoon or you're a squad leader. I was first class driver. That guy would jump out the Humvee and run into the fight and be like, "Pip, bring up the vehicle." I'm like, suddenly I'm on my own. I drive around a battlefield trying to find units. And I drive from platoon to run supplies. Like, there's like miles between platoons. I drive a Humvee between platoons through enemy territory on my own. I've been ambushed and like
soft-skinned Humvee at an 18-year-old.
I from Bangkok, from Baghdad airport to the take people out of Baghdad to the airport on my own. I'd run that route. Most dangerous route.
That's Irish or Miami?
I would run around Irish on my own, and I'd do it fast. I had the stripped down Humvee, big old like had tires on the front of ram cars. I run people to the airport, turn around, and come back on that run on my own, which is like, what? They would let me do that back in the day.
We had a sergeant first class who would run Irish, and he would report back up to the talk, and he said, "I'm using speed as my camouflage.
You'd have
I'm
to,
a mustache definitely."
We're
like,
holy snap. Yeah, it was crazy. It was like before it got wild. And then I went back in 2005 when the insurgency had just started. And like, once again, car bombs were a new thing. We were like, what is a car bomb? You're about to find out.
Every day, they started doing
once a week.
Because all the soft skins that you guys had, they started doing all the IEDs. And so then they started putting all the metal on these soft skin doors.
Yeah, that was 2005, welding all the stuff on and putting
sandbags to the floor.
We had a spinning office chair in the back with a 240 Bravo mount.
With a ratchet strap.
Spin around.
The gunner's ratchet strapped to the pedestal mount.
It was crazy, man. Been looking back at all these things. I remember the route I used to drive up from Kuwait back in 2005 before you drive up from Kuwait into like Tikrit and Baghdad, and the whole route up with burning vehicles. Yeah. I came out one night driving through and like all the supply trucks are being hit just before us and the whole route's on fire. And you're just like,
so we stopped off in Scania. Is that what it was called?
3 more hours of this.
It's like Scania was the
halfway point between Kuwait and Baghdad.
Yeah, you go.
Sounds familiar.
Yeah, and then you jump back on that nasty road and take the rest of the way up.
Good times.
It's crazy. Yeah.
All right, so Iraq, breached the berm. You're an engineer. Were you an engineer for 8 years?
Yeah, I was a combat engineer I was actually an engineer my whole career. I went from being a combat engineer to 18 Charlies.
There you go.
Engineer. And then I went on and took all of our demolition courses. So I took the CIA course, Harvey Point. I was a master breacher. So like I really, for a demolition career, I peaked. I did everything I needed to do. Apart from going to Delta, that would have been the next thing for me, just to really get freedom of my demo and find out some more stuff. Other than that, like I took a demo as far as I could for schools. I did EOD courses. I took search and clearance courses, all kinds of things. Did the K9 demolition course at one point. Tried to be a K9 handler for demo, but then we were short for sergeants on deployments. They took away my dog and deployed. So, yeah.
He went from being a 12 Bravo.
About that.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Yeah.
He was literally going to be a Paw Patrol dude.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. Well, this was back when we had the explosive handling dogs.
Yeah.
You were attached to the line. You were just doing like EOD sweeps. Like, go find the IEDs to the patrol.
Yeah.
It's like,
He went from 12 Bravo, where they kind of measured explosives, to so it's good.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
No one died last time. So
Yeah,
it was work. Yeah.
So when did you end up in SF to 18 then?
I think 2007. Yeah, 2007. I went over to selection, which was also really interesting because there was no July selections because people keep dying during July selections at SF. but they were short in numbers. So they ran a July selection back then when I went. It was only about 200 to 300 people with super short class. You had to be a combat MOS and you had to be sergeant or higher. So I got like a really no shit kind of group of people. And I come from Fort Stewart in Iraq. So all you have to do is survive the heat. You know, in the military, they can't kill you at a certain heat point. They'll push you to it, but then they got to be like, just got to survive the heat. Fort Stewart, I've been doing this for years.
Yeah.
So it's still a hard selection, but that heat one for me was a lot easier than going through cold with lots of people. I felt it was really competitive. There was less people, so the cadre really got to be like, you are who's going through kind of deal.
Yeah. And NCOs.
Yeah.
So you had a lot of experience already.
Yeah, it was really great. Like the whole teams were operating and pushing, so it was a really great course. I was also an SF recruiter later in life, so I know what a bad selection course is like. High washout rates and everyone sucks. It really ruins everyone's kind of chance to get through. Even if you're the right guy to get through, what if we put you in a bad team of non-combat people that are just like not getting it? That affects you and your grading for weeks and things. So having everyone wanting to be there, coming from the same kind of, everyone had come from combat. This was in the war. So no one was down there like, I've never been deployed. Everyone's like, I'm coming for my second deployment. I'm ready to go. So it was a different group.
What about language? What'd you end up doing?
French.
Oh.
Which was crazy because I actually did French and German at school in England. And I vividly remember telling my teacher, like, this is dumb. I'm never going to speak French or German. Then I lived in Germany with 110 speaking French as my main language. So pay attention. Wish I spoke more French and German. Yeah.
I need to go see my teacher.
French is a good one. It's super simple. If you're ever going to go SF and anyone's listening for the career path, like, be dumb, speak French and Spanish, you get paid easier.
Yeah.
Become something like Arabic or Farsi, you never get in there. Forget that money. See, it's done. Go to third group, go to 10th, speak French and Spanish.
Nice.
Well, seventh is Spanish as well.
Spanish, yeah. You've got Spanish, French. There's no German in there. The rest is like Arabic, Farsi. The Asian languages are super complicated too. So.
Yeah. So I figured that's probably what ended up happening because, but the easiest languages are like Portuguese, French, Italian, more of the
Romance language.
Romance language.
People speaking Arabic so for me it was a 6-month language course. Yeah. And then I go to Germany and we have Garmisch in France. So we go away for 6 weeks a year to speak French and ski, which was so terrible.
You said Garmisch?
Garmisch.
You know, Garmisch, yeah.
That's
what different language.
Garmisch.
Ski, French, like the French word for skiing is like, this is terrible.
Do you remember the commercial that said idle vibe?
Yeah.
It's the American Lodge there, which is a super nice location, but it's ruined by all like the general trash of the military. It's gorgeous, but
sounds very weird.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's Garmisch, man.
So you were there how many years? Germany?
6 years in Germany.
Okay.
And then I went from there over to...
How many times did you deploy in that time period?
2 times. 2 deployments, yeah. 2 deployments to Afghanistan. I did Romania deployments, Slovakia, Hungary.
Oh, that's right. You guys...
we stood up.
Yeah.
This was early 2000. So we stood up the French, we stood up the Romanians and the Hungarians. So we were really big in the partner force building before them guys were standing.
This was in preparation for the conventional army going in and
getting them ready. So that was kind of unique. I'm not going to talk crap on our counterparts. I've got some friends there, but they're not funded the same way we are. No. It's very easy to be American software. You'll pay buku bucks and you drive a nice car in America. Like, yeah, I'll jump out of a plane all day long. Yeah. When you make crap money, it's very hard to be like, come on, guys, it's our 5th jump of the day. They're like, nah, dude, like, I'm not. And then back then, younger me, like, you guys don't want to be SF. But like, really, it's just not the same. Like, the pay makes is what we are, right? You're willing to risk more. But it was really cool standing them all up. And then from there, I took my SWIC time, so I'll kind of break to go to Special Warfare Center in school. And someone managed to chat me into the job. They're like, can't be a poster child. You're half black and white. I do more love recruiting for you. That sounds awesome. It was terrible to go from war and combat to be like completely removed from my brother.
And where you did that back at Fort Stewart, you said?
I was Fort Stewart and Savannah, but I was responsible for the whole Southeast. I run all the way from Bragg all the way down to Tampa, and I was also running the oh my God, forgot about that. I was also doing the recruiting rotations in Afghanistan. They were sending me out there for up to a month at a time to go.
He's going TDY to Afghanistan.
There you go. Like 2015 or 16, I got a big plaque says like Afghan shutdown. They were shutting down all the camps, and I was flying around as a solo SF dude to all of these FOBs and camps to talk to the lost people. And some of them I'd fought out of. You'd land into a camp, there was nothing.
Yeah.
No one would meet you, and you'd walk around empty barracks. Where is everyone? Platoon left. And then like the war ends in 2020, 6 years later. It's like, I thought we were ending this when I was there in 2016.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So you were going around and trying to recruit guys while they were deployed.
Yeah.
That's how you get them, because that's when they started seeing the ODAs.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to guard this installation. I want to do what he's doing.
Yeah. So I did that. It was surreal. But I guess it was kind of good at the same time, made me who I am now, but recruiting was terrible. They took me out of SF and made me go to recruiting school for 8 weeks. Up at Benning. I've never been so unhappy in my whole life, because the recruiters are learning how to recruit people from the street.
Right.
Day one. I'm already an SF recruiter. I only select E5s and above in service.
Yeah, it's in-service recruiting.
They don't teach you how to do any of that at recruiting school. The whole time they're there, you're learning how to recruit. I'm like, I'm an SF recruiter. Why am I here? Like, well, you have to. I'm like, I don't do any of this. So imagine being in a career where everything I do is for a purpose, and suddenly I'm just like here for no reason. Suddenly thrust back into regular army ridiculousness. It was terrible. Yeah, they tried to make me wear regular PTs. Can you imagine that?
I love that.
I remember like that back in the day was such a big thing for us. Like, that's it, guys. You guys are in grays. Like, what do you mean I can't wear Ranger pants and blacks?
That was the grape.
Yeah,
that was black shorts. Great.
Yeah, the terrible black shorts. With
the big diamond or whatever it was.
Yeah, terrible.
That's good time.
With the mock turtleneck long sleeves, man. Yeah,
that was the worst.
Yeah. So go ahead.
I was going to say I was a recruiting sergeant major for the Security Force Assistance Brigade, or command, but that was where we had to do all the in-service recruiting. So I'd tie in with the SF recruiting sergeant major.
So you're one of the few people in the world that know how terrible that is.
It's horrible.
With the recruiting numbers and
recruiting doesn't matter, because it's cyclic. You're constantly having to recruit.
Yeah.
Constantly.
Oh, I was in recruiting, dude.
Yeah. It's a hard one to make too. It's one thing to recruit from the streets if people want to join, but you're asking people who are already in the army in a cushy job, like, hey, want to go, this was during the war, it's like, hey, want to go to a job that's dying, it's all over the news, want to be an SF dude and fight with Afghans that betray you and shoot you in the back? Like, by the way, you need to make 30 recruits a month, Kev. Like, you can't force people to go. I'd much rather have no recruits. And if no one wants to join SF, that's it. No one wants to join.
Yeah.
You can't force people to join something which isn't meant to be forced.
Yeah.
So recruiting command, though, is like cracking the whip, like, make them join. Like, I don't fucking want to make them join.
And then
shouldn't have to be made.
Get evaluated on.
You want to go to my office and join my brothers in war? Like, that's on you. Like, show me you want to be here. So like, I really fought with that one mentally. They're like, just get them in. I'm like, I'm gonna have to go serve these ding dongs later. Like,
And then we had to battle the folks that were going to SFAS, and they were like, do I want to be a combat advisor, or do I want to go SF? Of course, we're going to take a back seat to all those. But when you have 2-3 different organizations fighting the in-service recruiting piece, there has to be some sort of harmony there. Have you been back? Have you been back to Bragg to go see the schoolhouse?
yeah, actually, so post-military service in my in my conservation wildlife trainer field, I've been back to Bragg and actually briefed on some medical stuff and some what would we call that, kind of real world TTPs from crossovers in my wildlife kind of protection field, where we're dealing with insurgents and crime in parks, some of the technology and crossover there. I'm like, hey, this could really go to a schoolhouse in American. So I've had a few opportunities to actually go to Bragg and kind of present some things. These are some skills and things I know post-military now that I think would carry over. Yeah, it's quite the machine. It's massive. Yeah, Bragg itself is, I was actually in the CA compound where 91st is stationed a few years ago. That place is ridiculous now. Yeah, it's a whole nother camp in Fort Bragg. It's a camp in itself.
Yeah, they built, it's like a big university setting now.
Yeah.
So they built a brand new building for you guys, and then they've got new housing and everything.
Though they're ruining what it is to be SF. Back in the old days, it was like a team room in the back corner of camp, the red-headed stepchildren. Like, that's what SF is. If you make them with, by the way, put them next to PsyOps and CA so they all get along. Like, that's already like
that just made PsyOps feel better.
You're mixing down what it is to be a unique character and a tool in the military. Everyone looks the same and is the same. No, that's why we have the different kind of tribes. That's that whole new military way of thinking. I don't like.
Well, let's talk about that for a second, because we got an SBAB guy sitting next to an SF, and this was the time period where an SBAB came into play. You were in SF.
Yeah.
How'd you feel about that? Especially with the Green Beret and the whole,
No real concern, man, because it doesn't really it didn't affect people going SF. Those that wanted to be SF, you don't just one day go have a drink, but I'm going to be SF. Like, they grew up wanting to be a Green Beret. They watched the stories and movies. They had a very good most of them are just afraid to go because they don't want to fail their dream. So I find most of them come into the office, I just got to get them to the dream. Very few people you're going to explain the first time that, oh, I never considered that. Like, so it's crazy. There's also about like 2% of idiots that come in. And I had one idiot in particular, which I still remember to this day. Guy was an idiot. Shouldn't have been SF ever. Went 3 selections though. I sent him 3 times, all the way through, both times, just idiot, wouldn't pass. But every time he'd come into the office, get in shape, go again. And by the end, I was like, dude, not on. He's like, well, I'm going to go and try anyway. And then I'd have studs come in and would quit at week 1. Like, there I have got this idiot who mentally is not right fit, doesn't quit, has gone 3 I wouldn't go to 3 selections.
But don't you need a little bit of dumb cowboy in you to beat SF anyway?
I've already done 1 selection and quit, but this guy's going back 3, and then I've got studs and the best in the army would show up and go for 2 weeks and quit. And they're like, it wasn't for me, Sergeant.
A microcosm of life.
Yeah.
Yes, it's quite interesting. So it's a bit for all. There's definitely a rogueness to being on the SF side, more than like Ranger Battle, CA, or like PsyOps. It requires a certain kind of personality. I hope that's not been watered down too much lately. It needs war to really like thrive, I think. Vietnam, then the Gulf, then the GWAT, and now we need it to come back around again so we can like kind of grow the beard.
Well, it needs new war, right? It doesn't need stale war. 20 years worth of the same thing is probably what's watering it down.
Yeah.
You need something new.
You need something new, something fresh to resharpen that blade.
Yep.
Yeah, we've been fighting out Syria. We're still in Iraq, probably dealing with ISIS. I know we've got guys in South America fighting.
Africa.
Or Africa.
Yeah, Africa. All for Africa's a massive.
It's always
It's a continent as well. There's everywhere. Mali, then Sudan, Ethiopia. You've got stuff kicking off in Mozambique. So yeah, it's
stuff kicking off in South America on occasion.
Yeah, and then we've got Trump right now pushing things. So I saw the targeting's back on the table and getting guys out. So we'll see what happens with that as forward.
Talk to any guys down to 7th, see if they're excited about grabbing bagging and.
Yeah, not yet. I haven't spoken to her. I got some 7th group friends. I just haven't caught up with them. I only just got back this trip. But yeah, I know they've been busy in Colombia. And I've been following a lot of like the intel threads where we're starting to assist with Mexico's ability to have trained people and then target. Probably doing like R18 Fox kind of showing them how to run better intel, and there's been cross training. But I don't think we're released on. I had this conversation the other day. It's very hard to release this on Mexico because it's not not an insurgent. We're not fighting people thousands. The Taliban we pick on all day, they've never come back to America. It's the other side of the world.
But you have millions of sympathizers within your borders.
Well, let's just discuss with someone. So the cartel has unlimited money. So we're all cartel. Trump's coming into office, and we knew that 2 years ago. Like, we have all the money in the world. Like, if we were even idiots, you've got $1 million. What would you do to get ready? I would probably put a bunch of embeds in the military in intel, which they've already done years ago. I'd start infiltrating all the military bases. I'd like know everything right now. Easy. I'd have all the strike parts. So
I mean, that's been going on for years.
The cartel's a hard one. Like, I don't think they're ready. And we're like, we should just release America. Okay, we go and execute some cartel bosses. Like, okay, I'm going to rape, kill children in Fayetteville. See how you like that? SF can't just be like, let's get together and go. We can't do anything unless we're deployed. We're stuck with our hands tied.
Kick a door in at Sharky's to get some cartel.
You're stuck with your hands tied while the cartel does horrendous things, and that's what they do. Like, that's how it be American. Like, Delta Force still can't just do what they want. They have to be deployed. I can still kill your wives in whatever town you live.
It's classic terrorism, right? Yeah.
This is one we're not.
Your way of life.
This is one we're not quite ready for, and it's funded by Americans' desire.
I was going to say that, but
no one cared about the Taliban.
Say about it too much.
You buying anything from the Taliban? No. Everyone buying coke from the freaking Mexicans? Like, oh yeah, every day, all day. So it's a hard one to get
pharmaceuticals now. That's the big one, right?
Yeah, it's a hard one to get rid of. So that whole like poking the bees or poking the bear on the Mexico one for me strategically, I'm like, oh, there's so much.
I think strategically the only way to do it is armor. And just, and just having a 51st state, just a big one. You know what I mean?
The Americans want drugs. That's the problem. It's a drug problem. Even if you, let's say we took over Mexico and shut it all off, like, it's not going to go anywhere. It'd go to the next country, Venezuela. It would just move. Because too many people make way too much money off it. It's a massive business. Are
they producing anything in Mexico, or is it just where the money comes through?
Pharmaceuticals.
A bit of both. It's a hard one. So Mexico.
I thought most of the production was actually in the northern part of South America and then Central America.
Actually, most of it's coming from India. Go figure.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, a lot of the pharmaceuticals are, and you guys can fact check me in the world, but India is a major producer of fake pharmaceuticals, but then Mexico's like right behind it, and it's because, like you talk about, Americans are making that happen, And then you can wind it all the way back to, you know, insurance companies and, you know, big pharma, whatever. That's But yeah, I mean, I personally don't think we're ever going to do anything with Mexico, just because we can talk a lot of shit about a wall. I mean, we've seen the wall; you can see right through it. Yeah. Right. And we can talk about all the things that we're going to
go around it too, right?
I mean,
we're millionaires. We're billionaires. Like, I'm not going to stop my products. I'll get submarines. Like, I'll fly planes. I can lose 5 planes every one that gets across. If my one gets across all my product. Yeah. The price of cocaine just goes up in America.
I mean, they do that. I mean,
we just charge Americans.
They calculate the loss, right? Just like any other company.
Yeah, they write it off.
Yeah, this is the loss, write off, and then the rest made.
The unit rate goes up at that point.
Yeah.
So that's a hard one for me when people are like, we just go mess up the Mexicans. I'm like, oh, that's a really complicated one to be tugging on. We've failed at almost everything we've done. We couldn't beat the Taliban. Iraq we destroyed. Syria, ISIS is still kicking around.
So what Kevin's saying is we need made in America drugs, folks. That's the only way to defeat the Americans is produce coke here.
Affordable
drug act.
Key.
Did you ever
Drug act.
I'm going to pull this out of next year. Did you ever end up going like MFF or Sapper or anything like that? You know, so military free fall?
No, I didn't do, so there was some weird things. So I didn't go Sapper because I'd already done my line time. I'd already been blowing stuff up. I was at Stewart. They were offering me Sapper between deployments. I'm like, no, I don't want to go to Sapper school between a damn deployment. Like, no. So I didn't take Sapper school. I got offered military freefall in Germany. I was already a skydiver. I had over 250 freefall jumps. I was a pro skydiver for a while. So they offered me military freefall. Like, I skydive on the weekends for a hobby. I don't want to go to freefall.
That's like a jiu-jitsu going to combatives.
So I actually I did all my combatives. I was a combatives master instructor, Germany and in Georgia during my time. I did all like Mines and MacP. I worked at the schoolhouse doing combatives for a while. I did all my demo careers, like all the ones that are in the military book, plus all the ones that aren't in the book, like the CIA and clandestine demo ones. That was my real.
Remember the Master Breacher course that we shut down right outside of Benning?
Yeah.
Yeah, we go through.
Oops.
The NSA.
I went to Master Breacher with 75th Ranger bat, which was kind of cool.
Yeah.
Oh, I bet.
Yeah.
They take that super.
They take everything way too seriously. We're going to blow this stuff up, guys. Be real chill today. Takes all the fun out of everything. I miss that part of my life. I miss having just a garage or a shed filled with explosives, hundreds of pounds. At any time I can be like, I'm going to freak out about 40 pounds of this, make some stuff and make a big boom in the desert. Like, I've done some silly things which survive, but that's part of it. Funny thing.
Yeah. That's where the good stories come from. Nobody has stories about the good times.
I once blew up a car that was being left in camp. They asked me to blow it up. It's being packed with C4, took it out to the demo field in Afghanistan, blew it up. The car evaporated, and I remember the engine just like into the sun. Like, oh shit, we lost the engine block. And I think they like tumbling down out of the sky, everyone running around. So I'm like, yeah, lucky on that one. But yeah, I miss that. I miss explosives. Anyone that hasn't got to play with explosives, it's a real fun thing. Like, it's an aggressive and violent explosion that body.
That's the only time you can say shit like that without the feds kicking in your door.
Just when you're like reaching, you're throwing door charges and things like that. That was always fun. I really miss that part of my life, like the demo part.
Why didn't you take the long walk then? What stopped you?
Same thing, the deployment cycle. Germany was 6 on, 6 off. So 6 deployed. When you're back for 6, you've got a month with your family, 2 months at the range, a month for just whatever battalions go direct, and then go to an Eastern European country for training. A lot of guys were leaving 110 and going for the long walk. And I think we were doing pretty good because we were a 6 on, 6 off rotation. So mentally we were in the game and we'd been finding mountains. The guys take their combat deployment, like, yo, carry the 240, carry a bunch of ammo.
Yeah.
And then get back and go. But psychologically, I saw some of my really good friends get wrecked by that, to go from deployment and go for the long walk. I think it's good to probably not go for the long walk after deployment. Get there and just mentally you're not quite right, even though I know my guys are studs, but like physically they're past. But I see them come back kind of broken. We were in our mid-20s now. I'm all 40 looking back on it. I think that's probably why, to go from that stress to that is just too much. So I wanted to go for my long walk. That's the one part of my military career I maybe didn't get to go to, that last little bit, to kind of find out if I could do it. Definitely could have done it. I think I could have done it. I'm fit enough physically, mentally. I have friends there already as instructors. Yeah. So for us coming from Germany, what you do is show up, bring people there, and do what you need to do, and then they'd be like, they vouch for you. But yeah, I had a wife. I was a master breacher too. So like the shots to the head weren't good for me. I was having my own emotional, mental issues at the time. So yeah, I just never went. not too bad. I'm not slightly upset that I didn't go. It's just one I'm like kind of like, maybe it would be more fun than what I
Yeah.
Well, it just seems like you had a lot of fun in all the different training and things that you did. And so
Seems like you make the best of everything.
right, to experience one more thing and get that other wealth of knowledge that's very different, of course. You know, it's not regimented and everything else.
So
That's
I guess
part of the big
I
part.
almost did actually. I got to, memories going back. I almost did. So I left Germany, got to Savannah as a recruiter. And then I was like, I'm taking my long walk. That's it. Trading out for my long walk. And then recruiting command didn't let me go. They kind of like, yeah, you can go. But no, they never let me go. They just kept me there. They'd be like, oh, you go to this school next month. We go to school for you. Oh, man. They
Thanks, you
They kept that little drip going for Kev. 90 days, and 90 days would come and be like, oh, sorry, it fell through. They kept
they're recruiters. I mean, of course,
3 years, man. They did that.
You got a master liar badge for a reason, man.
Seriously, yeah.
they got you with your own game.
I remember it just got to the point where I kind of lost what it was to be SF by the time I got to recruiting. I was so just like ready to get out by that point.
Yeah.
And also, like, this is 2017 behind me. Basically, every year was deployed. By that point, I was just get out the minute. Best decision.
So what are you doing now? Like, you're out of the military, obviously, and you're in Africa.
I saw pictures.
I am adventuring is the best way to. I am just living an adventure life. I have no kids, married with dogs.
Hey, anybody who had an elephant come through their back door, raise your hand.
Yeah.
Okay. There we go.
Yeah. So I moved to Africa, became a. So when I was growing up in rural England, my cousin was a zookeeper. So I was actually going to the zoo on the weekends and feed like endangered red. I wanted to be a wildlife conservationist. And I remember my dad came from a police and nurse family. Some mums. I remember them telling me that was for dirty dreadlocked hippies.
Yeah.
Joke's on you, Dad.
Wait, so he went from wanting to grow up to be an animal conservationist.
Yeah.
To special forces.
So those two. I was also reading all like the old SAS books back in the day. It was real big. My uncles were all paratroopers, so I grew up in a paratrooper environment.
Yeah.
My dad was police SWAT in the UK, which is rare. So I grew up very like aggro, rugby, lots of brothers.
I can see rugby.
I wanted to be a wildlife conservationist. They told me no. So I went then. I was like, I'm going to be SAS then. I moved to America and did all that. But my whole career, I wanted to do wildlife conservation. I remember YouTube became a thing during our lifetimes, right? Like 2007, 6. So I started seeing videos like the gorilla poaching, the rhino poaching, the threats to tigers. And I remember being really torn about getting out. Remember that was like, you get close to ETS day, you're like, I'm going to go do this. And you're like, that's terrifying. I'm going to take for 3 more years. Oh, next time, next go around.
Yeah.
I did that for a while, but I remember watching all of this and really wanting to be involved with, not so much the plight of the wildlife, because humans are going to destroy everything anyway. It was more the plight of wildlife rangers, like the very few protecting the last few endangered things for us as a humanity. And they were getting slaughtered and killed in a very like unconventional way. And there was not one person that seemed to be out there giving them training or anything to help with that. So that was like, I want to do that. So then, I moved to South Africa right after my military service at like the tail end of what we were calling the Rhino Wars, where we were losing hundreds of rhinos a year, armed insurgent groups, AKAs, like just it was bush warfare in the national parks. It was crazy. So I went and learned, became a master tracker, became a ranger, took my anti-poaching courses, got involved with that, and started basically riding with wildlife rangers to see what they were going through all across Africa, multiple parks, some of the worst areas, just to see like what the issues were. Then I became a team leader of a group in South Africa for a while, ran that. Once again, though, imagine our PTSD, gone from the war, and I've attached myself now to rhinos as my like thing, and they're being killed all around us. I'm going out to rhino carcasses. I'm seeing dead rhinos, like psychologically and stressfully. That's also not good for me. But I didn't know that at the time. I remember getting really burnt out from that and kind of hitting a rock bottom. So I moved to Thailand to do tiger conservation, which actually kind of saved me a little bit. A whole different vibe. Like the Buddhist mentality and being in the jungles was really good. So I was doing jungle reforestation, tiger walk, moved back to South Africa for training. Not moved, actually just headed there for training. COVID happened. So me and my wife actually stayed there for about a year and ended up settling down, making friends, and now I'm still there professionally. So yeah, I'm a full-time wildlife conservationist. So I specialize in ranger training, protected areas, kind of thing.
Sounds my nephew we were talking about, right?
Yeah, I'll look at these in a minute. I definitely know these guys.
Yeah. So that's him.
Yeah, I have to look at a picture.
That's the park ranger stuff.
It looks
that
like
you're talking
Kenya,
about.
right?
Yeah, there's the flag. He's got the flag up there.
So tell us about what, because you and I talked about this a little bit. What was it like being over there during COVID? Because
absolutely awesome.
Right, because all the animals come out and
yeah, absolutely amazing. So I guess that's a good story for the audience. So where I live in South Africa, I've bounced around the entire world at this point. I've been everywhere. I live in a super unique place I've been unable to find anywhere. So where I live in South Africa, we got the Kruger National Park at 2,000 square miles, size of Belgium. And then right alongside that are these private reserves. Reserves are big. We're talking like 5 square miles minimum. Some of them have big 5, which we call big 5s. They've got lions, elephants, rhinos, buffalo, hippo. Some of them don't. They might not have lions or elephants. So I live amongst all that and a unique one that doesn't have lions, elephants, rhino, or buffalo. But I have everything else. So I live essentially in this wild, kind of crazy environment where no one's hunting the animals. So the animals, it's very like, they know who the people are. They know, like, they live there. Like, they live 15 years, like a dog. Like, they know which house is their friends. I have relationships with wildlife, like crazy stuff. Mongoose come up and see me. Giraffes, I've worked relationships with know me. I'm like, I know you do. No, but
Clothes, move there.
If you think your photo was good before, you're gonna have to have no. Plenters, come, go home now. Enough. He's seen it sharpened up.
Thank goodness he closed the door.
It does.
so like there I am for COVID. Yeah, COVID was crazy. I was in one of the strictest lockdowns in the world. Like, they were shooting people on the streets in Joburg, but I live in the wilds of the Kruger. So like we were moving around the park. I wasn't locked in my house, and there was no traffic on the road, no planes. So the wildlife just went wild. The roads became wildlife highways, which was absolutely amazing.
I've seen the photos and the videos.
The worst part was we had no alcohol because they did an alcohol ban in Africa. So we were making we did a 8-month lockdown. We locked down until October. So no alcohol. We were like making hooch in the bathtub with yeast and stuff kind of deal. But compared to the rest of the world and their issues, I was living a blessed life.
It's like your life got better.
Yeah.
No, seriously. Yeah. It really did. Like, I remember the first plane that flew over the house. I was like, what is that noise? I'm like, oh, people. I also was lucky enough to be flying right after the COVID bans. I travel for a living doing wildlife conservation and running a tour company. So I was still flying nonstop and the planes were empty, airports were empty. Now we're back to like every seat's filled. People are gross. I hate them.
That's awesome. Oh.
People are gross.
How bad is the poaching and stuff getting over there now?
I mean, getting better.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of a good answer for this. It's first of all, Africa is a massive continent. It's huge. I can't even wrap my head around how big the place is. So I specifically live in South Africa. So let's talk about specifically South Africa as a whole. So we have a couple of kinds of different poaching. You have subsistence poaching, which is people hunting for meat.
Because they're hungry. Or they know somebody that's hungry.
Yeah. So there's definitely that. And then there's just like the good old boy network in America. And then there's some people that are just poaching because they can sell it.
Like a horn?
No, like the meat.
Oh, the meat. Okay.
Strictly meat. So
Yeah.
they're breaking into national parks and they'll lie wire snares, a big cable snares, like massive.
Okay.
And nothing can break cable. You'll catch elephants, rhinos, but they'll go out and you put 200 out. You play the numbers game. You're not like, I'm going to put this one snare on the trail. You're going to go out. You're uneducated because the system's failed you. So you aren't thinking bigger picture, like what will happen if I don't come back and check these. You're just like, I'll put 200 out. I'll get one. And that's my biggest issue. Like, they just don't seem to think about, why would you think about it? You had no education to think about that. You don't care. But it's not just you. It's about 1,000 more of you doing the exact same thing day in, day out across the entire park of South Africa. That's subsistence poaching. So we find a lot of that with the wire snares, which are terrible. Quite a few animals break free of the snares. I've got horrendous pictures. They'll cut them all the way down to like the bone. I've cut off arms and stuff. So we have to rescue a few. And then you get into poaching as part of the illegal wildlife trade. So now we're talking big money. Now we're in the range of like heroin, cocaine, like rhino horn. It's up there with gold per ounce. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
So now we're talking rhino horn, ivory, lion skins.
You're talking about animal ownership too, like the smaller.
Yeah, they like darting things. And
No, this is kidding. So the rhino poaching specifically is the poaching people usually think of in Africa. That's armed gangs going against rangers in the park. And
Yeah.
nowadays, rangers in the Kruger are on like a small unit tactic scale. They're better than.
Or they're like getting down, right?
We
Like,
have FLIR and radar and sensors in the park. We have
Nice.
ground detection. We have AI cameras from Microsoft, which are scanning every moving thing and being like animal person, and it will alert the system We've got world-class tracking dogs which work off-leash. We deploy a pack of hounds on radio collar, and they'll cover 20K.
What kind of hounds?
Blue tick.
Oh, wow.
So blue tick hound pack gets deployed.
America. That's what I'm talking
Wow.
about. That's what I'm talking about.
I love the hound. I love fucking I'm a master tracker too. So I'm a professional tracker in the Kruger. So I track poachers and wildlife. So we'll get into that one.
My life is so boring.
Yeah.
So the wildlife, the rhino haunting is so crazy because we're at this point in the game now where it's professional groups. In the early days, you could just run around with a gun and shoot some rhinos. And like now, as you're coming against a heavily armed force of Kruger, rangers are out there waiting for you, and you're still like, I'll take that on. So the guys we're dealing with now are seasoned professionals. They work in
Like, are we talking like PKMs, RPKs,
No,
AKs? What?
South Africa's 375, 458. You got to shoot a rhino. That rhino.
No. I'm talking about like they obviously they have a kill gun, but do they not have like small tactic guns as
Yes,
well? Like,
it'll be a three-man unit.
so I'm thinking of a small kill team. You have your shooter, then you have the guy with assault.
It changes based on country. So in South Africa, you're going to have a shooter with the main guns. They have big game rifles.
Yeah.
7.5, 4.8. You want it with a silencer.
Yeah.
Because you can't be blasting in the park.
That's one hell of a can for a 458.
Basically, you get close, shoot the rhino, cut off the horn. Your other guy is your tracker. That's your bushman, ex-ranger, whoever you've paid off now that's like, I track professionally, I'll find your rhino. You've got that guy, and then you've got another guy who's your carry guy. So after the rhino's killed, he'll take the horn. So their first job is to get into the park undetected. Usually we pick them up. If they get in though, so far they're undetected. They're also pro trackers, so they're counter tracking our tracking. So they're not sloppy, so that's super hard. After they kill the rhino, if we hear the gunshot, like if someone hears it, we can triangulate and we'll start moving to that. Their job then is to take that horn off as quick as possible and bum to the fence. So catching them is really hard because you're a 2,000 square mile park. It's the size of Belgium. Like, you only have 1,000 rangers. Really only about 500 active armed rangers. So that's a hard one. If we do detect them on the way in, then it becomes that kind of racing game to beat them to the kill. You've got to deploy helicopters, canines. You've got to get trackers on the track and start following them in. The minute they know they're being tracked, they also go into counter tracking. They bust down threes and then disappear. It's super, super hard to deal with. Now they're carrying 9mm quite often. They don't want to get into a firefight with the Rangers because if everyone's carrying AKs, like, that changes the ROE for us.
Yeah.
Rangers are like, game on, like, what you gonna go deal with that? But yeah, there's quite a few Rangers get killed in these very close encounters. Wintertime is really dry and the bush is open. Summertime, I've just come from, it's dense. You're bumping in, especially when you're tracking things at speed, you're bumping into lions and elephants and buffaloes, which also kill you on top of you're bumping into armed gangs.
Yeah.
So that one's a bit mincy. And they're not, when you get into rhino poaching, you're dealing with criminal syndicates. Guys that are doing snare poaching are just like me, you, poaching. Criminal syndicates are criminal syndicates. It's the same, like heavy level guys. But after you've broken out the park, you've got to bribe police, you're prepared to kill cops to get to where you need to be. You've got an international shipper, you've got money laundering. So it gets into a whole bigger, like, transnational crime piece. You've got to export that to Asia.
That's so wild, man. So obviously the ex-Rangers aren't very popular with the current Rangers, the ones that are out there.
I mean, there's lots of ex-Rangers.
Yeah. Well, I'm talking about the ex-Rangers that are going in and helping the poachers out.
Yeah, if they get caught, they'll go to jail for it. But there's also corruption, man. Like, rhino horn is so expensive. The Kruger Park, they don't pay Rangers very much.
Yeah.
What's the rhino horn? If I get off the rhino, I'm talking $45,000 to $100,000, depending on my market. Like, you're a ranger making $300 a month. Would you like to make $1,000 this month? You say no. One of you will say yes. One of you will.
Yeah.
All I need to do is find out where the rhino are. So all wildlife is a creature of habit. I've got a 2,000 square mile park, but it's like a dog. It's not just wandering it around. Like, it has its water hole. It has to eat, drink, sleep. It does the same thing, just like me and you.
Yeah.
So you just got to find out where the water hole is. Like, found my rhinos. All I do is actually get to any water hole as a track and be like, oh, they're rhino tracks. Like, nope. Next one. Find rhino tracks. Like, I just got to wait now. Rhinos, they'll come.
And then you're training, obviously, with the Army, U.S. Army, and doing all your ODA stuff. How much has that helped you?
Not as much as you think.
Oh, really? See, I thought it would have
comparatively,
a lot more.
to your peers.
I mean, better than my ranger peers. I do it now. I guess the main thing is like military tactics and just understanding command and control. Like, that part is good. I've done a lot of medical training for rangers. It's a big one. I've been training about 500 rangers a year, doing a Stop the Bleed campaign just to offset deaths from bleeding to death in the field from silly injuries.
Yeah.
That's one. I've had to completely learn the skill of tracking. I was hunting and fishing in America and I thought I could track. Like, no, you don't track shit. Come to Africa, it's proper tracking. Like,
You don't track shit in America.
Yeah.
well, I've got to be able to track. I've got to be able to track in that very, like, meditative Native American, like, because like my life is on the line. Like I'm tracking footprints. Okay, like do they cross lion footprints? Is the lion fresh? Matters, right? 15 minutes looks a lot like 6 hours.
Yeah.
I can't be worried about a 6-hour track. It's like if it's fresh dung, old dung, like it's not only tracking people who I might bump into a danger. I also got to read the signs of animals. Be like, that is really fresh. Like that's a problem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So also why I miss the SF sound. I just replaced old day. It's very saying like that patrol with the IEDs. Like it's out somewhere. Yeah. Step on it. Like I'm moving through the bush. Like there's a lion out here somewhere. There's elephants out here somewhere. There's poachers out here somewhere.
What's the most dangerous animal that you would think
People.
Other than
humans? Yeah.
Yeah, so I deal with the big five on the regular, and it's actually kind of interesting.
Like a bull elephant.
Find out the lions. Lions are pretty chill, man.
Yeah.
Well, they aren't pretty chill. They're super ape. But predictability wise, they're pretty chill. Like a male lion has a couple of jobs in the wild: protect the pride,
And then sleep 18 hours.
kill big things,
Yeah.
and then protect my health so I can do the other two things. If it's not one of them, I'm not really interested. So if he bumps into me on the trail and he's like, oh shit, he's probably like, oh damn, person's too close. He's now got to be like, all right, am I going to eat him? No, because they're an apex predator, and like if I eat him, more comes as bad news. Am I defending the pride? No, they're not around. So all I've got to do at this point is just show that I'm big. So he's gonna be like, raw, raw. I've just got to be like, I see you, dude. Got it. Like, I'm gonna back off, and he'll go out his way. Then you get into like the herbivores, which are eaten by the lions, and they are high strung. So like buffalo, because they deal with lions, they don't run away very often. So if they encounter lions, their best defense is just to frickin' go on offense before the lions have a chance to get their shit. So you bump into buffalo, it's just like attack. It's designed so you can't have a time to like sneak. It's you're loud.
Yeah.
Like, oh my god, buffalo. Hippos too live in the river all day. They come out onto land at night to feed, and they eat, get further away from their safe space. Suddenly the light comes up, and they're like, oh my god, I'm a long way away. And they like to take trails back to the river. They only take trails back to the river, in fact. So in dense brush, it's one of the things you travel on is hippo trails. If you bump into a hippo on the trail, the hippo will attack you.
I was about that.
I was going to say they're ferocious.
That's it.
The hippo does not turn around and run away because lions will jump on it. It will now be like, I'm going to chomp you, and then I'm going to haul ass back. And then elephants too, like 6-ton, man, our big bulls are 6-ton. Like they'll flip the car. I've got videos I'll show you, like flipping cars and doing. So having a really healthy respect for the wildlife. So I'm also like a professional wildlife behavior specialist. I've taken courses from that point, which is mentally for me, like from the whole combative standpoint, like I can stand down lions and elephants, and I can definitely deal with people. So nothing really flosses me on the people front too much.
Back to people being gross.
Back to people
Yeah,
being
I
gross.
can deal with lots of snakes. I've got black mambas, green mambas. I've got night adders.
That's pretty metal because you just named like the 3 most poisonous snakes in Africa.
Just catching a snouted cobra the other day.
Yeah.
A snouted cobra from someone's house. So like we got all the snakes around. I've got all the poisonous scorpions.
How the hell are you still standing here? I mean,
skills, survival skills?
Yeah.
Because I teach wildlife. I live in this bush, and also all my friends around me do the same thing.
It's the window lickers that get killed.
Well,
Yeah.
here's the thing. It's a common theme because when he walked in, I asked him about a story. And
tell the story.
okay, so
This is like a 2002 story.
yeah, this is, I caught him off guard, but one of our coworkers or one of my leaders and one of your subordinates
The world.
was an engineer with you. He was the one that invaded Iraq on a sea truck, but he told me a story of you propping up a trash can full of water with like a sewer lid sized snapping turtle in it.
It was a monster.
And so explain how you caught that snapping turtle.
So once again, stationed in Fort Stewart as a redneck child, we had a moat outside the front of our barracks, so we quite often get snapping turtles. I caught some massive snakes. Like rattlesnakes, pretty cool. We have some super rare indigo snakes that eat rattlesnakes in Georgia, like 12, 15 foot long, super rare. I actually caught one in the moat one day. A good like 12 foot long, big old orange belly. I'm like, so one
He
of
was
my
that guy in the bears.
yeah, dude, I was that guy. I actually killed a pig one day on a field training exercise with a Hems pole. I've been sharpening and baiting. I chased this thing down and got it, and then we were trying to cook it. I'm that kid. Yeah, so I actually caught this massive snapping turtle in the barracks. It was like big enough to grab a shell. What should we do with this? I'm like, I got a plan. Let's empty out that dumpster. We'll put the turtle in the dumpster. And then we filled the dumpster with water. I had like a dozen soldiers help me carry it to the 3rd floor where the soldier was on medical. We wouldn't have to go.
Profile. He was on profile. So yeah,
He wasn't profile. He's been a shitbag. So he was like a 5'1" kid from Jersey, about 105 pounds. We lent the this water on the door with the turtle. I rung the bell.
Oh my
And I
God.
remember the door opening, and it wasn't like a slow, because he's weak. The door opening was like, so 55 gallons of water came in with the turtle. And then he shut the door. He like washed him off his feet, and he had a cane at the time. So he was like fighting the turtle in the hallway. The turtle had picked the cane up. He had to call the MPs.
He's like Master Splinter.
Yeah.
The MPs were like, yeah, we're not dealing with that. I can't remember how we got it out. I don't know if Wally got it out, actually. Wally was one of my redneck companions. I'm not sure if we rescued it out in the end.
It seems like something he'll do.
That's one of the smartest, dumbest people I've ever met in my life. Walrod. We're talking about Lucas Walrod.
Yes.
That's his name out there. Love him to death. Super intelligent, physically fit. His common sense is beyond reproach. Really. So that's awesome.
Yeah.
But he is still a little redneck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So you've grown up around animals. You've never had a problem with animals. It seems like if you grew up in England, as the only guy in the moors hunting and fishing,
Yeah.
you know?
Especially now with the big wildlife, it's really humbling. I've got, so in the industry I live in, you've got wildlife rangers working wildlife protection. And then the other side is tourism industry, which is the guides. So running guided safaris. That's my other job. I run a safari tour company professionally, an American one, but I specialize in Africa.
Yeah.
So we've got two sides of the house, wildlife rangers who are living in it, protecting it, and I work closely with them. So I've got that experience. And I'm also a professional guide on the wildlife conservation, able to articulate the environment to a guest.
That'd be a fantastic place for a podcast if I was you.
If you guys come to Africa,
Road trips, yeah.
set up the most ridiculous podcast. Okay, I'll give you lines in the background, fly a helicopter. I do it all for a living. So yeah. So a big part of the wildlife guiding part is interaction with the wildlife safely. So we're walking on foot, like we'll walk up to elephants and lions. It's a big part of just being able to read the wildlife and what's going on. Much like demolition.
Yeah.
I assess, like, before I go up to this bomb, like, what kind of bomb am I dealing with?
Yeah.
Am I dealing with a big male elephant in the water hole on his own? Am I dealing with female kids? That's a whole different kind of bomb. Like how I approach it and what happens when I get there.
Which one's more dangerous, the big male or the female with kids? Women and kids. Yeah.
The big male's more dangerous.
Wait, we still talking about the animals?
Yeah.
The big male's more dangerous for short, 6 ton, but he's so big he doesn't care. He's literally the biggest thing. Like, as long as you respect the size.
What is he, like 10, 11 foot at the shoulders?
The pictures, yeah, huge, absolutely. Like, there's not all of them that big, but some of the big ones are like, what? It's an animal. He's all bluster. He just wants to be a bully. So they come into what they call musk, where they like, get super sexually aroused and breed. If they're not in the musk state, they're pretty chill. As long as you're downwind, respect their space, you can get a good viewing. Get too close, so an animals will let you know, like, I don't like this. And someone big like that, too close, he's going to let you know, like, he's going to come deal with you. Females with the kids are super aware of any smell of predators. So they'll pick you up on the wind and they're either going to run away from it or they're all going to be like, let's all go together. Let's go kill it.
So I was going to ask that also because, you know, we talk about the situational awareness training and all that. And then working in the woods as much as we have from a human aspect, the smells that are coming from these tourists obviously are different than if you're just out there with rangers doing whatever you
so most tourists are on a vehicle, so they're driving around. That's the other thing. So most people on a vehicle driving around, so they don't really do much time on foot. I spend a lot of my time on foot.
Yeah.
I'm working with the rangers clearing snares, and snares are placed in areas of high animal kind of frequency. Also, when I'm dealing with snares, I have to deal with animals in snares, which is when, like, I had a lion rip off a foot once in a snare. Walking along, trying to find snares, and suddenly there's a lion in the snare up ahead of us, and before we could deal with it, it's like,
oh my God.
Its foot's off. Like, okay, it can't run. It's super angry and in pain. Like, this is the worst place to be. But the lion's got two choices. Like, it's either going to fight, run. It can't run. So it didn't fight, though it ran. But, like, that could have been super bad. Like, the lion's got nothing to lose. But he's in his brain, like, the adrenaline dump. Fight, flight, like us. So dealing with that kind of thing is super. The senses for me, I teach this. So the 5 senses for me in the bush, I think that's what people are missing in this modern world. Like, I use my smell, my hearing. Like, I'm very aware when I'm out. Subconsciously, when I'm always aware where the wind is on my face. I just feel it, so I know where my smell's coming from, where my smell's going, so I can predict what's going to happen before I get there. I'm listening for all the sounds of, like, the animals. Even the squirrels will tell you if there's a leopard close by or a snake. I just have to understand that I know all the calls. I'm like, oh, there's something over there. So yeah.
Wow.
And I get to hear all the sounds and go investigate the sounds. So when I'm at home, I'll quite often run out of my house. My wife's like, where are you going? I'm like, I heard an alarm call. And I'll go confirm what the animals are alarming on. I'm like, oh, that's lion. You guys are making that noise for lion.
See, they're going to the contact. Right?
Yeah.
Nothing's changed.
Like a regular Dr. Doodle.
You know, dude, and it's not just the big ones. Like, I'm so I live in this wildlife area where no one's hunting, so the animals are all super just chill with people. Even the insects, I've got such a new appreciation on like what intelligence is. I've had a jumping spider, big one in my backyard. She's made a nest. I've been interacting with her. You can walk up and check her out. And she used to hide, but now she was walking out and she'd like come down and check me out. I'm like, some form of intelligence, because she can understand like you aren't a danger. I can come out to see you, and like, so yeah, it's kind of changed my whole view on humans' place in the world and how we're disconnected from that a little bit. Like, I think this modern world has really disconnected us from like what is sentient and what has a soul. I think in losing that is why we'll run over raccoons here like it's nothing. Like I live in a place that you do not run over anything. We don't even run over dung. It's like if you run over anything, that's a big no. Like we'll snap you for that, because there's stuff in the dung. Like dung beetles, and the dung beetles become food for other stuff. Yeah, we don't run over this. Even the little insects in the road, people swerve around it. I love it. Here in America, who cares? You just run over. Like not.
I mean, they run over people. So
if someone ran over a snake where I live, someone would pick up this. Even as a cobra, would pick it up and take it to my friend who does. He specializes in snakes. We'd heal it up and release it, because like everything deserves to live there. That's why I pay money to live with the animals. I should be paying money to live there and then also running over. So I look at everything as my neighbor. Even the littlest thing is like, it has its place, which kind of for me is mentally is a kind of cool place to be in, kind of.
So what is your take on hunting, like legal hunting?
Yeah, so I grew up hunting and fishing. I was actually a professional tuna fisherman for a while. I did like 1,000-pound tuna up at Cape Cod. After I left that bit, after about SF went to Africa, I ran out of monies like you do. So I came back, became a professional tuna fisherman up in Boston. I was doing like 1,000-pound tuna on a long line.
Oh, wow.
Fishing with like whales. So I'd make my money for 90 days and disappear for another year. So big hunter and fisher. I've shot a lot of stuff in Africa too. Lately.
Do you feel a more connection to your harvest?
So lately I've stopped hunting and fishing. The tuna fishing kind of ruined it for me. I caught that last 1,000-pound monster, and it was so big. We got on the boat finally. I was like, should be doing this.
Yeah. How old do you think that fish was?
Yeah.
And there's not many of them. There's a lot of 1,000-pound. That's a rare one.
Yeah.
Here I am catching it, not because I'm super hungry, because I'm like, I'm about to get paid.
Yeah.
Ship this. So we literally got it back to port, and before we were back out the fishing spot, it was on a plane from FedEx from Boston going to Japan. So that for me was kind of like, we're destroying the ocean. I'm catching the last of the monsters. That didn't vibe with me well. And then the last things I shot in Africa were a few years ago. I kind of want to shoot a wildebeest right now, just for my freezer. So I want to clean it, prepare myself, because I work out, so I eat a ton of protein, but I might as well just kill my own protein. Yeah. I just don't have the desire to go out and kill things anymore much, because I live with them. So like, even the antelope, they used to be like, it's just a white-tailed deer. It's because you don't see it do the things. You're just in the woods for one day out of the week. And they're in my backyard 24/7. It's like, I see a lot of interspecies stuff going on where different species come together and kind of communicate. And I've even seen them play, which shows intelligence, because you have to have a soul to understand the rules of play. And the other, like, it gets into so much more than just like, oh, they're playing together. Like, wrap your head around what that means for a second. So when you get into that, so once I go with that, it just kind of makes it, I don't want to shoot stuff and kill it as much anymore.
Yeah.
Have you seen, like a lot of the soldiers with PTSD getting on that are now taking, hallucinogenic drugs, like, kissing the toad or licking the toad or whatever. And one of the things that they talk about is how everything is all connected. You're experiencing this without having to take any type of drug. You're in the drugs.
Let's discuss anyway. So I'm also a professional wildlife conservationist, makes up about 25% of what I do nowadays. 75% I'm actually a professional African safari tour company owner operator. I actually specialize in wilderness mental health and therapy for veterans. I work with our SOCOM units. I specialize in currently psychedelic therapy in the wilderness.
Oh, do you?
Ketamine clinic in Joburg that does stuff. I'm actually working to get the psilocybin mushroom program in Africa for that exact reason, to combine what I do in the wilderness with them things to like really appreciate kind of like our interconnectedness to the wild. But yeah, so the week they're setting out right now in the bush. So I've actually run 3 programs doing this so far.
There's a lot of dudes that are veterans that have done that. They come back and they found Jesus. I mean, they realize that there is a greater being because everything's connected.
Yeah, it's a thing. So. And I like my mushrooms usually like once every 90 days or so. We drink alcohol, right? We'll get drunk, but I think nothing of it. Mushrooms, like, it's very quick and then there's no hangover, but definitely in the bush makes you really appreciate kind of where we're meant to be and like how the world works. So I was very lucky, like I said, growing up in England and 4 phones, running around playing in the woods, and then a military career playing in the woods in Georgia. Now, a lot of people don't have that. And it's almost like death of experience of what it is to be a human. Another thing too, I do in the world of species, everything is a species. Humans are a species.
Mm-hmm.
We as humans don't look at ourselves as a species. We think we're something different. Like we're the same as everything else. Like if a meteorite hit today and all this technology ended, we're the same as the freaking monkeys and the deer. Like it's survival, eat, drink, eat.
Yeah.
So
we know how to compartmentalize. I mean, and I was going to ask you a question about your animals, like your actual domesticated animals and their relationship with the wild. But I mean, everything that you're talking about that you do in your current home, we do, but just keep it with our animals. But then we have the capability, and I'm not saying it's good, to look at other animals. And go, oh, that's not good. So we don't treat them as well, right?
Yeah.
So I don't think I would need hallucinogenics to get that significant emotional event.
Oh yeah,
happening,
yeah. So
right?
just
You know?
to iterate, I do both. I've got one program where I'm working that for some people. It's definitely a thing. If you're ready for that, oh my god, the experience in the bush with like a sunset and the mushrooms and like the vibe and the sounds of the wild, it's just like it's something else. Yeah, but I also just do the wilderness therapy where like we're just doing immerse. We're coming out to do tracking. We're on foot. We're one night camping out under the stars. Like we do fire watch. Because the lions will come. And the hyenas will bite someone in the face.
It's a real firewatch.
That's a real fire.
Yeah.
Which changes the whole fire watch. Because once again, you do fire watch in Iraq, even if you know there's insurgents, you're like, yeah, but they're not coming for us. We've got 8 gunships. So like when you go to sleep in the bush and lay down 6 people, oh, something is coming to find out if you guys have food. The lions are going to sneak up 20 in the pride, and you're going to realize suddenly like, oh, there's a lion. Oh, there's another lion. Oh, well, there's lions all like, wake up, people, there's lions here.
Yeah, you've got nocturnal carnivores that do nothing but hunt things for a living.
I say, yeah, my biggest issue is my dogs. So everything wants to eat my dogs.
Yeah.
The leopards will
So
come.
what kind of dogs do you have?
I've got a Rhodesian Ridgeback
Nice.
and a Dalmatian mix, like a little pit bull Dalmatian mix cross thing.
In South Africa.
That's the Savannah coming out in them. That's the Georgia Savannah coming out.
Badass dog.
I take my Morkie. to South-
Every day I walk them, I run into like the giraffes, I find off warthogs, leopards aren't too bad, you won't see them, but at night the leopards will come for the dogs. I actually had a friend that a leopard broke through into a house, and she was sitting on the sofa with a cat. Leopard broke through the window, smashed in, tried to get the cat, and ran into the kitchen. She's running around screaming, chaos. Leopards in the house trying to eat the cat, so I'm leaning back.
No, you're right. You're right.
So
No, you that too. When
Yeah.
the leopards.
I mean, if a leopard's in the house, it's good to lean back from the mic, I think.
I have where I live 12 leopards because we know them all. We've got cameras, and like it's a big thing. We drive out at night and find the leopards.
It's like, that's Dave. He's a dick.
Because they have so much. It's super cool. They have so much prey. Like they have no beef with us. They're out to eat them. Like it goes back to that first rule. Like does it benefit them to attack us? Now if it's old and injured, that's super rare. Where I am because it's all reserves and everyone's super wildlife orientated. So to get an old injured leopard in, someone will be like, "Yo, we need to deal with this guy. We'll go take it out." So we actually know all the wildlife where I am. We know we have about 2,500 lions, say 30,000 elephants, probably close
30,000
to
elephants?
2,500 rhinos across the area.
Yeah, you're not naming all those. That's Brantley. He does CrossFit.
Yeah.
Leave him alone. He's super. 30,000. That's I'm not making fun.
Because the entire, because South Africa. So
Yeah.
Kruger I think the Kruger though is about 30,000 elephants right now. It's
That's
too many elephants right now.
So that means like wildebeest and Cape Buffalo, or that number's even bigger than 30,000.
Oh yeah, I see herds 1,000,
Yeah.
1,000 buffalo easy enough.
Yeah, like
So you've done that flyover of the herd
Yeah,
personally.
well, quite often in helicopters, doing like snare patrol sweeps, trying to find new areas to go search, or flying around looking for carcasses from the edge, try and put a team in. And then I do a lot of helicopter flying around, just shits and giggles, but it's fun I can. And quite often with tourists and guests, I'm like, let's go for a fly in the park.
Have you learned to fly?
I want to learn to fly though.
It's difficult, right?
I don't want to. Helicopter's a good one, but it's uber complicated. We have where I live called a Bat Hawk. So it's got a BMW 1200 engine on prop, and you're basically like this little bubble side by side.
That's what's up.
You've got a little kind of stretched wing with a fabric over it. But you can fly super low, touch down in any field you want. You can turn around in a super small diameter, so you kind of like fly around. That way, if you do crash, it's like, oh, we're going down. Like, well, this thing's made for crashing. So,
yeah,
you know.
It's kind of you're talking about the kite kind of thing.
it's like an ultralight.
Yeah.
Yeah, but ultra,
Yeah. But it has a BMW 1200
yeah,
on
an
it.
African edition one called a Bat
Like
Hawk,
a
which I've
40-year-old kid, but with like real life stuff going. I know that made no sense, but it's pretty cool.
Well, so much to me.
No,
It's just
all the cool shit.
You're like a big kid.
yeah, it's like
No,
What do you want?
Tell us about your organization, because, as we begin to wrap up, we want to make sure that we give a shout out to what you're doing in case people are listening and go do it.
Yeah, so first of all, I said professional wildlife conservationist. So if anyone's dreamt of going to Africa as a whole, Asia, to get involved with conservation nonprofit work, please reach out to me and I'll send you in the right direction. I did the wrong direction to start with. It's wild because it's Africa. You can get in as much trouble as you want to get in. I luckily just didn't get in trouble, but I definitely started off some renegade rogue years. But I wouldn't suggest that to a normal person. Avoid that. It was fun, but now I run a safari tour company, like I said, called WildWorks. I specialize in taking people on immersive tours all across Africa. So yeah, gorillas, rhinos, elephants, Madagascar, Tanzania, you name it, I'll take you there. So I'm actually just getting back from a trip to Thailand. So I just had a group book me. So I've just come from Phuket in the south and the islands. I took them to Bangkok. And then we went up to the Golden Triangle, up to Chiang Mai, and spent some time up in the jungles there.
You can tell he's been in Thailand before because he actually pronounced Phuket correctly.
I lived in Thailand for a year up in the mountains, the Golden Triangle.
So you've seen a tiger, like a wild tiger?
I've never seen a wild tiger.
Okay.
I've tracked wild tiger, but I've yet to see one.
I was about to say, that's like one of the hardest things
to find, yeah. I could go to India and view them pretty easy, but I don't want to. Sorry, I like
for all the right reasons.
I like street food and everything else, but yeah, just something about the vibe of that place.
What about guys that are like you that just want to go out for the adventure? Are you taking on any new staff or people that can come over to help train and do things like that?
It's super hard. I said before I did WildWorks, I was actually running my own international wildlife conservation organization and bringing in a lot of Americans. It's hard. The Africans don't want us. There's also professionals. Just being a veteran doesn't bring any skill to what we do in Africa. We have professional wildlife rangers who've been doing this for 20 years. They track, they've been gunfights. It's a whole, we're talking about the GWAT babies, right? It's a whole different game. This is bush warfare. This is knowing animals and wilderness, how to stay out there for days. And
you need to be like a mountain man from the 1840s.
It is Lurs from the 1950s.
Yeah.
You think you're going to fight this cool, super sexy war. If it wasn't for the fact that I'm a passionate wildlife lover and part of being out in the wild is exposure to that. And the second part is I get to flex my military skills. That's a fun part. If you're just going for the military skills, you're not going to have a fun time.
Yeah.
Because it's mainly just endless walking, no food, heat, misery, no contact.
Wow, you made it sound so sexy.
Yeah.
It is sexy when the contact happens.
Yeah, it was sexy before. That sounded like the 25K.
Yeah, I'm unique though because I'm in the industry for years. My friends are professional rangers and trackers. So when shit goes on, I get the call and I get to go jump out with the boys. I've got a lot, so I get to be in it. That's not the case for most people.
Yeah.
You're going to get there on a 90-day tourist visa, and Africa wants nothing to do with you because you don't bring anything per se. So yeah, but now if you want to come on an immersive experience, I can get you out to tactical tracking courses. I can get you out to canine courses. We run our own 5-day trails course. We walk through the Kruger and you just experience being in the wild. So definitely look up my website, WildWorks. Works is spelled WERX.
We'll make sure we put it in the show notes.
Yeah, we'll drop it in the show notes.
So that's what I'm doing. I do a massive veteran discount to 30% for our veterans.
Wow.
Yeah, if you're a veteran organization that wants to bring out people, I'm also partnered with another nonprofit where I flex my wildlife conservation things so I can align with them to do a tax write-off for the donation too, to get vets out. So yeah.
Well, especially some of those that are trying to do ketamine, stuff like that, go down to South America.
So I've been banging my head about that. Everyone's like, we went to South America for the nature. And I see the videos, I'm like, it's not nature. Just because you're in a wood, it's not nature. For me, I'm like, that's not nature. Nature is lions roaring at night, hyenas singing, all the bugs and the insects. And while you're on the mushrooms, you're like, oh my God, this little bird is here. Just being in the woods in Mexico and calling it nature is a nature. I live in wilderness. I think part of it is the experience of going through the wilderness for 2 or 3 days where you're like, wow. And then doing the mushrooms once you've we have to explain what the wilderness is to you and how everything's interconnected so your brain gets it and you start seeing it. And then you introduce a mushroom part where it comes
enhances it. Yeah.
And afterwards, then the next 2 days, just decompressing where you're kind of like, wow, I hadn't considered things that way. Kind of
reflection.
Yeah. Reflection kind of just changes. I feel for us Americans especially, it's just getting out of this rat race of this style of life. It's very hard unless you're leaving this entirely just to get away from it and see just how.
We have a different definition of austere environment, right? We say austere and that's 2 miles away from a hardball where I can go down and hit the corner store. But as long as I can't see civilization, I'm in the woods.
Yeah.
So I'm a weird austere. So if I turn around from my house, I've got the Kruger all the way to Mozambique, miles. Or I could turn the other way in town, is 2 kilometers away, and I've got beer and restaurants and food. So I live in the, we call it safari capital of South Africa. So I've got all the basically 3 to 5 star lodges.
Yeah.
So you can be in the finest accommodation in the business, or we could be on foot walking around in the boondocks. So I kind of get to experience both sides of this. But yeah, wilderness. I was actually out on my bike the other day. I got a big BMW 1200 adventure. I was up the mountains. I got about an hour from the house in the mountains, no cell phone reception, dumped the bike on a hill. It landed upside down. I couldn't pick it up. I was like, damn it, this is going to be a long day. I took a bit of water and snacks as well because I wanted the challenge. I was like, oh, let's make it fun. I was like, this sucks.
And then out there, you become the snack. I mean, that's like,
Well, he's got a BMW 1200.
And it's a heavy bike when it's on the side upside
it's
down.
top heavy.
Oh my God.
But he's got it for all the right reasons. Instead of the dude over here with the suitcases hanging out the side on the.
Oh, I bounce around that bike all for Africa. It's great. And there's almost no police. So I don't have to worry about like speed tickets on the camera. I just get to ride for the sake of riding.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's a business you should start is like motorcycle.
I do motorcycle tours, whatever.
Of course you do.
If it's safari tour, if someone's like, I want to go to Africa to ride motorbikes and fly a helicopter, and I want
Hey, why don't you shut the hell up, Sean? Okay.
be like,
Already thought of it.
done, yeah, whatever anyone wants in South Africa.
We do ketamine on bikes. What are you talking about? You're getting the whole experience.
We haven't combined them two yet.
Oh,
You haven't lived till
Yeah.
you got a hyena in the sidecar going over the mountains. Oh man.
oh man, Kevin, I appreciate you coming in, man. It's been a while. I've been trying to nail this whole thing down. I do want to get some of those videos and everything so we can include them so people can really get to experience what you've been describing.
Yeah.
I mean, being able to be out in the wilderness and see the amount of stars that are truly in the sky that nobody gets a chance to see.
Remember the days in Afghanistan with
Yeah.
vision goggles looking?
Yeah.
I get that now. The only difference is I get that with like the sounds of lions roaring, which is primal. It shakes your rib cage. Something about it, you're just like, yes. And then the hyena song, all of it is just, it really makes me feel some days I'm just sitting there and just like, yes. Yeah.
man, that sounds amazing.
We'll definitely have to take you up on your offer
Absolutely.
sometime or get together with some nonprofit that'll help us support and go over there.
Yeah, we make a plan. I keep trying to get people out to do a podcast, and like everyone's got to get new content. I'm like, I would make an amazing podcast, you guys. We could probably get all this stuff up into the mountains with a helicopter and get a battery bank.
That's where Monster comes in, right?
Yeah.
We need to get Monster to support us
I agree.
in our ketamine motorcycle. That's the one.
With the hyena.
With the hyena.
With a hyena in the sidecar, man.
That's a whole new Lion King.
Appreciate it, brother, man. Appreciate you coming in.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks
It's
for
fun. Yeah.
Awesome.
Awesome.